Welcome back. Now, the Managing Director of the World Economic Forum, Mirek Dušek, has emphasized the need for governments to be equipped with resources and the right mindset and procedures needed to lead on the global stage. Mirek Dušek made the observation at the sideline of the World Economic Forum. He highlighted the importance of world leaders to be ready for global leadership at the global level. Now, for more on developments at the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos, we are joined by South Africa's Minister of Electricity, Kgosientso Ramokgopa. He joins us from Davos. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. We appreciate sparing us your time. So, Minister, you are attending, you are attending the World Economic Forum in Davos. Can you please share with us what key takeaways are you and the rest of the team bringing back to South Africa from the forum, particularly in terms of discussions around energy development and infrastructure development? How do you see these takeaways aligning with South Africa's commitments to increasing energy access and economic growth?
No, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. So we are really taking the Africa message. Of course, we are assuming the presidency of the G20, and we want to use our presidency to advocate and agitate for the objectives on the continent. We know that there's an equal development in relation to energy access, an equal development in relation to industrialization. So our view is that first we need to focus on the issues on energy access. There's 600 million people on the continent who don't have access to electricity. So before we can talk about the transition, we have to place greater levels of emphasis on ensuring that we are able to achieve universal access. The second one is the affordability of electricity. Also in parts of the world where people have access to electricity, we know that it's unaffordable and it's devastating the poor disproportionately because their share on income that is spent on electricity is significantly higher than those of middle to high income earners. The third one is around what we see as the obligations of the industrial world to finance the transition because they are the ones who bear the highest proportion or responsibility in relation to the greenhouse gas emissions, the issues around climate change. And Africa is only contributing about 2.5% of the total global emissions. So the industrialized North have got an obligation to support us in this transition to ensure that we are able to realize our potential. Of course, I mean, as a continent, we have our own agency. We need to organize ourselves better, articulate our interests better on the global scale. And then the last one is around the critical minerals. We know that the continent is home to 30% of the known reserves in the world. And if you look at the battery economy, the kind of minerals and materials that are going to support the transition, a significant proportion of those are found on the continent. So our view is that we shouldn't be exporting, if you like, opportunities. By that I mean just exporting raw materials. We need to beneficiate this closer to source, and in so doing, we're able to get more people into employment, we're able to industrialize, we're able to take people out of poverty. So these are the issues that we are articulating as South Africa, but significantly, these are issues of the continent and not just South Africa alone.
Okay. I hear you on articulating Africa's interests there, Minister. But let's talk about President Ramaphosa's speech. Ramaphosa's address at the World Economic Forum emphasized South Africa's commitments to being open for business. Can you elaborate on what this means for the energy sector, particularly in terms of opportunities for foreign investment?
No, absolutely. So as you know that we have introduced a number of reforms. The President has assented the amendments to the Electricity Regulation Act, which is a principal legislation that governs the electricity ecosystem in the country. We've opened up the generation side to allow for additional generators outside our state-owned enterprise, ESCOM. So essentially, we have democratized generation in the country, and in so doing, we think that there will be greater investments into the country. There's likely going to be higher levels of research and development so that the new players are able to produce or generate electricity efficiently. And we hope that there's going to be a pass-through to the end consumer and electricity prices will not be increasing at the rate at which we've been experiencing. And then we've also made it possible that we accelerate the public procurement of renewable energy sources, generating sources from the private sector. We started this program in 2011. We've got over 8,000 megawatts on the grid that are being procured through this exercise, attracted close to about 15 billion US dollars over that period of time. A significant proportion of that has remained in the country through our progressive transformation policies. We've made it possible for local players to participate, and domestic finance houses are the ones that are have the biggest share of that financing. But also we have a robust regulatory and legal framework that is able to protect the interest of the investors. They know once they invest in our country that that investment is safe, and in so doing, we're able to build some degree of credibility in being a safe investment destination. And then the last one is that we enjoy, if you like, some of the most cutting-edge technology. If you think of the green hydrogen space, the Fischer-Tropsch technology developed here in the country by one of our SOEs. So the country, in that sense, is open for investment, and we hope that it will be a springboard to access the rest of the continent.
All right. Minister Ramokgopa, while Ramaphosa's address was specific to South Africa, one would like to think that it has maybe some certain level of influence on the rest of the African countries. Now, does it, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, first is that our view is that South Africa is equal to its peers on the continent. We never projected any sense of superiority. Our view is that no one should be left behind. Yes, it is true that we're the most industrialized country on the continent, but it's important that we're able to agitate, advocate, and orchestrate for responses that they are able to benefit the rest of the continent. It's not going to help us if we are just an island, an isolated jurisdiction that is seeing a proliferation of investment, that is seeing the levels of industrialization that we are seeing, when in fact our immediate neighbors are not experiencing that, the rest of the continent is not experiencing that. And that's why Africa Agenda 2063 is central. We're placing it front center of all of these initiatives. I think that Africa is a giant that is about to rise. I mean, the point I made earlier on, 30% of this mineral deposits that are going to power this transition are found on the continent. The continent has got the capacity to power 40% of the global solar needs requirements. The continent has got the most youthful if you like, population in the globe. So if we invest in these young people, we are likely going to realize the demographic dividend. Africa is on the rise. Africa is on the march. So it's not about South Africa, but it's about the totality of the continent.
Indeed, Minister.
We see ourselves as a contributor to these efforts.
Indeed, Africa on the rise and on the march. Thank you very much, Minister Ramokgopa, for joining us and giving us your experience at Davos. Thank you indeed.